Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition of the Cruskater Golf Podcast. I'm your host, Cruskater, also known as Brian, here today to just recap a bunch of what has been going on in the world of golf and in my world of golf specifically, including our famed family golf trip to Maui, Hawaii, playing in the background behind me, and just some other life updates. So it has been a while since Season 1, Episode 1, last January, which was an episode almost entirely about the Kapalua Golf Tournament, the Century Tournament of Champions, and what was going to be taking place in Kapalua, Maui, Hawaii, and reminiscing on our trip in 2020 to the wonderful Valley Isle of Maui, Hawaii. So, it's been a while. It's been a long year teaching through COVID last year, the loss of our beloved cat Brucey, and some family health issues. But we are back and better than ever. So we took a trip this March with our in-laws to Maui, Hawaii. We stayed on the south end of Maui in a small town called Makena, just south of Wailea, which is where we stayed in 2020 at the Marriott Wailea. The condo is gorgeous, well appointed, and literally right on the beach. You could see some of the photos were from our balcony or our lanai right on the beach. And it was a great location right across from the Wailea Gold and Emerald courses. And we're able to play both, including the Wailea Emerald, which we didn't have a chance to play last time. More golfing stops on the itinerary also included the Manele Golf Course on the island of Lanai, formerly known as the Challenge at Manele, fancy, uber-exclusive, Four Seasons Resort golf course that technically we weren't supposed to be able to play, but we did thanks to the Golf Pro donating a round a few years ago to the Rounds for Research golf auction benefiting the Greenskeepers Association, studying turf research and the impact of weather and climates on grass and agronomy. So big shout out to Manele Golf Course. It probably was, I would say, the best golf course that I probably have ever played. It was absolutely fantastic. The conditions were great. The layout was exciting right along the water, including a famed par 3 12th hole, in which you tee off over a chasm, some native grasses and rocks, and a just gorgeous viewpoint from pretty much the entire island. That's it behind me, one of the tee boxes there. More from the challenge at Manele. So anyway, or Manele, I should say, or Manele. Still working on that Hawaiian pronunciation, but all good. And another big update to share with you would be the progress towards the Hackers Paradise, THP, and Shotscope data experience, which will be coming up in less than a month. I believe the weekend of May 8th and 9th. So I'm super excited about that and to share my journey with you. So here is the plan for today, friends. We are going to begin with a look at some of the Hawaii golf courses we visited on our golf trip. We will then be taking a look at the recent golf events, such as the Masters, the first major of the year, Scottie, Sheffler, and where we're going with the major tournaments this year, as well, and of course the US Open, which will be in our backyard in Brookline, Massachusetts. And then we'll take a look at my experience with Shotscope and preparation for the data experience. So with these beautiful golf courses rolling in the background, I think it's fitting that we get started with Hawaii. So we landed in Kaanapali, and it was just a fantastic experience. I'm sorry, the Kahului Airport, not Kaanapali. The Kahului Airport in Maui. We spent a night as we waited for our in-laws to arrive before making our way down in our minivan to the Makena area, which is nice and quiet, but just a stone's throw from Wailea, all the shops, all the restaurants. Can't emphasize enough how amazing it is to be on a quiet part of the island. My wife's aunt and uncle stayed in Kaanapali, which is about an hour drive north of us. And despite the fact that they have a beach and it's really nice, and there's some luxurious resorts, it is exceptionally busy. The Kanapali Golf Course is like a golf factory churning out tee times. The entire operation is jam-packed. There are people everywhere, the beach, the restaurants. It is exceptionally crowded. There are a lot of activities for the kids, a lot of water sports, a lot of pools and kiddie pools. So it is loud, family-friendly, and fun, but is not necessarily to our liking. We love the quiet of McKenna and Wailea. So jumping in there, first, we had played the Wailea Gold once, and due to COVID, actually, the course shut down and did not allow us to get our last round at Wailea Emerald. So we decided to start with the Emerald, slightly wider, maybe a little bit friendlier layout to begin, but certainly a lot of elevation changes and still some tricky greens. So some general observations. Wailea Gold is beautiful. It actually has more water views, I believe, than the Wailea Gold. So the Emerald has more water views than the Gold. It's fantastic. It's a great layout that goes down towards the water, winds its way up a little bit around the hillside, but still at the top of the hill, you have great views down towards the water, some views up to the mountain of Haleakala, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So the layout begins with a downhill par 4, relatively short, and it is easily reachable in 2 for everyone, especially considering the elevation change. If you play from the proper tees, you're really going to be looking at nothing more than a driver and a wedge, or a wood and a short iron into a slightly elevated green. Now the Wailea Gold course, a little bit narrower. There are a lot of lava rock outcroppings that pinch off the fairways. You can see some more of these beautiful images here. And they also, not only do they have the lava outcrops, they also have a few more forced carries. Here is a forced carry over lava rock on the Wailea Gold course. So some interesting things to note. The Wailea courses are up from the beach. They're across the street from the beach, not directly on the water, but a number of water views. The Emerald probably has a better water view down towards the ocean and off to Molokini Crater in the distance, which you can see there in the background of this shot. So some interesting things to talk about. So Wailea has great fauna, foliage. It is well maintained. We are talking about drought conditions in the past 6 months in Hawaii, with the exception of some heavy rainstorms in December. The fairways are great. Because of the drier weather, they're playing firm and fast, but they are still well irrigated. The rough is lush, plenty of tropical plants, palm trees abound at Wailea. So great course conditions. Wailea Emerald, the force carries as well as ample bunkering. The first day we played, we took advantage of what is known as the Seahorse Swing, which is an unlimited golf package for 3 days. And it doesn't have to be consecutive. You can pick 3 days throughout any part of your journey. So we decided to ease into our round with the Emerald. We play with a great couple named Kathy and Dave, who were from the upper Midwest, I believe, and were exceptionally fun, laid back, really kept the demeanor light, which is perfect for Hawaii. You know, you hit a bad shot, sometimes you might get frustrated, and that bleeds into the next second shot. And before you know it, your whole hole or your whole round is ruined. In Hawaii, it's really easy to avoid that because all you have to do is look up and take advantage of the beautiful scenery, the palm trees, the ocean, could be the mountains. A lot of the middle or sort of back holes at Wailea Gold don't have a view of the water, or you might have a passing view from the tee box or the green. However, most of Wailea Gold looks up towards Haleakala, some slopes of farmland going up, old plantation land up to Haleakala, the volcano. So that's I always find that very interesting. So it is more difficult. Emerald is much more open, no force carries, no real force layups. It's a beautiful course. Elevation changes. You're going to have uphill tee shots and downhill tee shots. So if you hit the ball 250 off the tee, you're going to have balls that roll 300, 310, and you're going to have those 210 uphill tee shots. overall exceptional experience. Even one day online, they neglected to tell us that there was going to be a tournament in the afternoon for the kind employees of the course. Here I am with the Century Tournament of Champions trophy from Kapalua. We went to the glass blowing studio that created the trophy, and the exceptionally nice salesman Tony, who is also an artist, let me hold the trophy as if I was the champion. So getting back to Wailea, they forgot to tell us that there was a tournament and we might not be able to use the unlimited golf that day, which was very unfortunate. And it really gave us, or we gave them, two options. Look, we can come back on another day, but it's going to be difficult for us with our schedule. You're on vacation, often your itinerary is already set. Or could you possibly squeeze us in? And they did. They squeezed us in that afternoon. We got a head start. We got in 6 holes within an hour, which was before their shotgun start, and we got out in front of the whole tournament, which was fantastic, and we were able to get I think 35 of 36 holes in that day, which is fantastic. We only missed 1 hole in the back 9. A word about the bunkering at the Gold course. Wailea Gold is a lot of bunkering. It's easy to use some of the bunkers in the fairway as targets. Which part of the fairway, because they are slanted and they are downhill and uphill, and so your ball is going to roll. So it's important to place the ball in the correct part of the fairway, but they're still wide enough that you can usually hit it off the tee, unless there's some big lava outcrop that's in your way. But there's a lot of bunkers around the greens, tons of greenside bunkers. There are a few holes that are completely surrounded by greenside bunkers. They might as well just take away the grass and just make it an island green surrounded by sand. I will say that first day was a grind, playing the Gold in the afternoon after playing 18 at the Emerald. You're tired, and I went bunker to bunker twice. Not the best feeling, but we did leave Wailea and we did leave Maui better bunker players, especially greenside bunker players. Can't say enough about Wailea. The conditions are awesome. The property is great. On Emerald, there's only really one water hazard, a lake, which comes into play on 2 holes. There's a large shared green, a double green, which comes into play. And then on the Gold course, there's one lake which you tee off next to on 1 hole on the back 9. And then there's another hole where you are your approach shot and many pitches or chips are going to be right next to the greenside pond. Other than that, water does not come into play at the Wailea complex. The practice facility is great. They have a nice practice range. It is uphill, but it's a fantastic grass facility, good practice green, good practice bunker. The practice green is sloped, which gives you a great idea. There are not many undulations on the greens, but the slopes are abounding. And yes, everything usually breaks to the ocean, away from the mountain, except when the designer sloped the green purposely towards the mountain, in which case the ball doesn't quite break as much as it looks because you have the effect of the ocean and gravity pulling it the other way. So it's slanted almost towards the mountain, so it's still downhill with the mountains up here, but because the ocean's off there, it's still pulling it in that direction. So that's a technique actually used at a number of courses. We found it not so much at Kapalua, but we definitely found it at Manelli. Jack Nicklaus, when he designed the challenge at Manelli, used this technique. I would say that the ball is going to roll on the slopes. You're going to see it. But if the green is sloped slightly towards the center of the island or the mountain, the ball is going to break less than if the ball was sloped towards the green, in which case the ball is going to roll really fast, like you are putting on a hockey rink or a glass table. Very quickly on to the next course, Manelli. I mentioned it to you before. It is a fantastic course. It is well conditioned. Drought conditions, especially on Lanai, they did a fantastic job keeping the fairways, the greens, the tee boxes, the rough well irrigated. There were some areas of the rough which were a little crispy, but it is understandable. Made it slightly more unpredictable to have a ball in the rough, but it was nothing too awful. They did a fantastic job. And Manelli is interesting because it too is right on the water. There are holes that are actually on the water, especially back nine. 12 is a par 3 that goes right over a cove. It's a 185-yard carry or so over a cove, native grasses, rocks, and a little bit of water. Here are some cats that were at Kapalua. So Manelli on the island of Lanai, you have to take a ferry to get over there. Like I said, it's only usually open to resort guests. We took a ferry, we took a shuttle up from the boat ride. The boat's about an hour. Very calm in the morning. They're real experts crossing the channel. It's not that far. However, in the afternoon, it did get very choppy. Actually, it was the choppiest boat ride I've ever been on. They literally kept the throttle down the entire way on the 5:30 ferry home from Lanai, and they were just basically skipping along the top of the waves. Not for the faint of heart or those who get seasick. The boat was definitely going up and down, up and down. We definitely have a video of that, which I might have shared with you guys before. So your experience really starts when you first arrive. As you can see, my slideshow has in fact concluded, but we can start it over. For me, one of the more interesting things that I found with Manelli is that it's really a private course experience. We were sent off by the kind starter after getting our complimentary ball markers and sunscreen, and they were absolutely fantastic. And they said, basically, go enjoy the warm-up facilities. Go to the range, practice putting green, chip, pitch, and we did all of that. We worked our way through some short irons. I took my 200-yard club that I knew I was going to be able to use on that par 3 12th hole, and I just went for it. I said, okay, I'm going to do a warm-up. I know the shots that I need to hit. Let's practice them, and I did. And I am very glad that I did. And the starter said, look, when you're done warming up, just come on over. So there was no pressure. We probably started 10 minutes after our tee time. The course was empty. We only saw really one group on the back nine, let them play through so we could really enjoy just being. The beauty of the course, our golf shots, and a lot of the photography from some of these absolutely gorgeous holes. The par 4 17th also wraps around the water. It is a pretty long carry from the tee box to a dogleg right. Depends how much you want to cut off. I decided to go for a big power fade. I honestly probably sliced it a little bit more than I wanted to. A little too much fade on it, but I cranked it. I definitely got all of it, and it just faded a little more than I wanted to, but it sailing, and it hit one of the big rocks on the edge of the rough and the fairway. It bounced straight up, and I just held my breath for a minute, and I watched it fall on the other side. It landed in the rough, probably about 20 yards from the green. It was an absolutely lucky shot, but a fantastic shot that led to a 4 on the hole. So I was very happy about that. So all in all, great experience in Manelli, really a private course experience, great conditions. The fairway is just really just amazing, well manicured. You could really just play barefoot if you wanted to. You could eat off of it. Very easy to compress your irons. Just a gorgeous experience, and they are very nice. They're exceptionally nice at this course. The only negative thing to say would be at the Kaanapali course. I mentioned that it was like a golf factory. They were not mean or anything like that, but they were not the most welcoming. The aloha spirit that many of these courses have. So we teed off probably about 10 a.m. maybe. In the morning, we took advantage of a Troon 2-for-1 offer, which made it more palatable. But the course was pretty backed up. You were waiting on every hole. You were pretty much looking at a 5-hour round, which really, the timing messed me up personally in terms of my own game. You really have to have a strong mental game with that. The course layout is interesting. The first 5 or 6 holes are closer to the water at the base of the resort. There's a large lake that the holes snake around, bringing water into play in a few holes. And then it snakes its way up the hill. Again, drought conditions. One thing that was interesting is Kaanapali is not irrigated. Yes, it's one of the oldest courses on the island, but you'd think being a famous resort course with many resort guests coming from all over the Kaanapali area, the Westin, the Marriott, all these places, the Royal Kaanapali, and the courses aren't irrigated. We played the Royal course, which supposedly is the longer championship course, the better course. Fairways were firm, fast, browning, which I don't have a problem with. It's predictable. It's fast. The fairways were a little bit narrower than I expected. I'd heard it was a pretty friendly, flat golf course throughout, especially the first few holes and the last few holes. But the rough was absolutely awful. The rough was a combination of Bermuda and then some broadleaf grass which had crept in. And it had actually crept in and encroached on some of the greens, some of the fringe and some of the greens. And it was all crispy. There was a lot of brownout, some bare spots, which you just don't expect from a resort course in Hawaii. I understand they're in drought conditions, but all of these other courses managed fine. I don't mind a firm and fast fairway. Go to Scotland, go to Texas. We're used to that. We're golfers. And anything in the rough was just entirely unpredictable. You literally had to look to see if it was the Bermuda rough or if it was this thick broadleaf, which would wrap around, twist around your club, which made it very difficult to predict coming out of the rough. You could wind up in the rough 2 shots in a row and one catch a flyer and the other, barely get it 20 yards out of the rough. So I was very disappointed in the conditions. Even the greens had some of that broadleaf encroaching on it. And generally speaking, they just weren't the most welcoming. The beverage carts were fantastic at the other resorts at Kapalua, Wailea, Maneli. Very friendly, very nice. Maneli had the best buffalo chicken wrap I have ever had, and we had it out on the golf course. They also gave you complimentary pineapple coconut lemonade at Maneli. Kaanapali had none of that. They also had a complimentary water dispenser at the clubhouse, and there was a sign saying they'd have more out on the course. There was not a single beverage cooler, and we only saw the beverage cart once, which really, we were dehydrated by the end of the round. It was like an 84-degree day, and definitely the conditions up on the hill, further up, we went, it was hotter and it was drier, something we experienced at Maneli as well, but the course was just crispy, the conditions weren't great, and everybody was taking 20 years. I think part of it is the balls were running through the fairway and into the rough, and that was very unpredictable for the average golfer to try and. With the tournament going on that morning at Kapalua, that meant we had tournament pin placements. Last time we played the Plantation course, the famous par 3 8th, where you tee off over the chasm of doom. Don't leave your ball short. The ball was on the left, or the hole was on the left hand side of the green. Everything slants right to left. It was easy to aim for the fat part of the green and just let the ball roll down. Well, this time the pin position was on the right, the front right. Sucker pin position. I sort of aimed for the right side of the green, figuring I was going to hit my big draw. I did. I came up a little short, but I wound up in the bunker, hit a great shot, which went by the hole, rolled up the backstop, came back, and I was able to hit my par putt. Thank you, Kapalua. But absolutely fantastic conditions. Everybody from the pro shop to the starter to the attendants were so welcoming. They give you the custom bag tags if you so desire. And they were great at making sure they got us out on time and had a fantastic experience. Of course, the bunkers, the fairways, the greens are impeccable. So make sure you keep it that way. Replace your divots if you're at a course that wants that. Fill your divots. Replace your ball marks. That was the other thing about Kaanapali. It was the only course that did not have divot mix on the tee boxes and did not replace old divots on especially the par 3 tee boxes. You could see previous tee locations that were probably 2, 3, 4 days old that were just all chewed up, and they had not been replaced, they had not been filled, they had not done any work to it. It was almost as if their agronomy team or their greenskeepers were on strike that week. So just a fascinating note. We will not be going back to Kaanapali in the future. It's close enough to Kapalua that if we were visiting relatives again in Kaanapali, we would go to play Kapalua again. So those are the courses we visited: the Wailea Gold, Wailea Emerald, the Manele Golf Course on Lanai, Kapalua, and the Kaanapali Royal. We're looking forward to our next trip to Hawaii, which will be on the Big Island of Hawaii. We'll be staying at the Waikoloa Village, as well as the Mauna Kea area. Mauna Kea, of course, has a golf course, Waikoloa, and then there's the Mauna Lani, which is right next to Waikoloa, Waikoloa, which is a little bit better, more higher quality resort course. And we're hoping to play the Hualalai golf course, where the Champions Tour event is every January. I believe it's the Mitsubishi Electric Classic right now that we are looking to play that course come hopefully next spring. So that is our Hawaii recap. It definitely got me prepared for the next experience, the next big thing. In less than a month, I'll be flying down to Hammock Beach, the beautiful golf resort between Daytona Beach and Jacksonville. Just gorgeous, right on the water, great practice facilities, and that is courtesy of the Hackers Paradise THP. I've had the chance now for almost a year to be reviewing the Shotscope V3 watch. Of course, Shotscope has also come out with a new rangefinder and shot tracking combo. I had high expectations coming off of the Arco system. I don't mind having the phone in my pocket. I also knew that the watch itself didn't have a GPS map on it, but would have the exact GPS distances right on there. We talked about the addition of slope. We talked about the additions of distances to bunkers, hazards, penalty areas, and I'm proud to say that they have added those distances to bunkers and penalty areas. They have also, on their new rangefinder, come out with the slope function as well to really help golfers on all courses and of all skill and ability levels, which I think is fantastic. So I wore the watch in Hawaii, and it worked as advertised, and it worked really well. It did not take long for the watch, once turned on, to find the satellites, find the course. There was something that some people had had issues with in the past. I did not have that issue. It connected very quickly. One thing to note is that I charged it prior to getting to Hawaii, and on my first day I took it out of my bag to use, only to discover it was dead. Apparently, once it is fully charged, it is on, it turns on. So you must remember to disconnect when you do that. I don't know if you can read that in the background, but that is Jordan Spieth's locker. That was where I was for the day when we were playing the plantation course at Kapalua. So it was just a fantastic experience playing Hawaii with Shotscope. I had a little bit of reservation about not using a map, so I did have Arcos map out as something to have, especially if playing a course for the first time. You want to map out fat parts of the fairways and things like that. Thankfully, Shotscope now has layup distances as well as those aforementioned distances to penalty areas. The very initial stages of this giveaway last summer, the first part of the experience, Gavin from Shotscope answered a lot of our questions. He probably thought I was picky and had high standards, but I'm proud to say that some of those things have been incorporated in the past year in their releases and their updates, which I think is absolutely fantastic, which will bring me to their customer service in a minute, which was great. Overall, I did not have much difficulty using it on course. It did freeze up, not really sure, on the island of Lanai. Perhaps that was more an issue with the remoteness of the island or the area, and it combined, when it rebooted, it combined two holes. So I was left with all these shots from a par 4 and a par 3. Oh no, actually it was a par 5, so it was a lot of shots. And unfortunately, I had done a big dump upload of all my rounds from Hawaii at once, just because I had much more reliable Wi-Fi back home than I did in Hawaii. And unfortunately, they can't edit one round without changing all the other edits and things that you did on the app or on the dashboard. So they were able to walk me through it. Callum and Gavin at Shotscope were great walking me through how I could move and replicate the shots on the map on the app from one hole to the next, and it worked really well, and I was really pleased with their support. They were very responsive. All you have to do is send them an email. I had a mapping issue at Kanapali where there are two greens next to each other around the lake, and the par 3 green was mismapped as a different one. The tee location was wrong on it, so the distances were a little off, and they were able to fix that for me. I just moved my shots over. It's really easy, by the way, to edit the shots in the app. The app itself works very quickly, not nearly as cumbersome or as slow as the Arcos app, and the data is all there. I was able to see my club distances, my average lengths, my playing average, a lot of different things from my rounds right there. It gave me greens hit percentage, fairways hit, and compared my strokes gained, putting, approach off the tee to whatever I chose. I could compare it to a 5 handicap, a scratch player, tour player, to see how I stacked up and to identify what parts of the game I need improvement on. No surprise, I definitely need improvement on my approach game. My scrambling saved me. But it is worth noting, just interesting fact, my home course has tiny, minuscule greens. Of course, Hawaii, the resort courses, they have huge greens. They're well maintained. And I did hit, in Hawaii, almost 50%. It was in the 40% range of greens compared to only 22% back home. And I think that's a combination of the small greens as well as narrow fairways at this particular course that we play most often, which means that I'm often taking less than driver off the tee, further back, longer approach club, and a smaller green, longer approach, smaller green. You can imagine less greens hit. This here is our beach. This is our beach down in McKenna, known as Chang's Beach. It's quiet. You can see a little more secluded and is absolutely gorgeous. I definitely recommend the McKenna area. Again, here's another one looking out from our condo. So all good things. Shotscope was very helpful in Hawaii, really helpful with the layup distances when you knew there was some lava rock up ahead, or you knew that there was a bunker or something in the fairway. It was extremely helpful for that. So anyway, so some other thoughts, other concerns, other things to note. I will say that I thoroughly enjoyed using Shotscope. I was able to get an idea right away how the humidity, how the elevation, the warm temperatures were affecting me, because previously I was playing in the simulators at PGA Tour Superstore, 70 degree climate controlled area versus being outside in Hawaii with wind, with elevation, in warm temperatures. Temperatures averaged in the low 80s, getting up to around 90 at the top of the Manelli golf course. So as you might imagine, that had a definite effect on the carry distances, how I was able to compress the ball and that sort of thing. So I was able to get a really good bead on how I was playing and the distances that my clubs were going, which I can tell you was significantly longer than Massachusetts in the cold weather, definitely outside. So all things considered, really happy with the Shotscope watch. The support is great. Email them, and they will most definitely help you. So I think that brings me just a little bit to talking about the actual data experience presented by Shotscope. So one thing that I think is worth noting for all of us is the Hackers Paradise is a fantastic community. It's a community with thousands of members, but many active ones who choose to participate in something known as the Albatross Club, which is sort of like an inner circle, and all you have to do to be a part of that and participate in these experiences, these golf trips with tons of camaraderie, swag, even for some of them you'll get gear, is a donation to the St. Jude Children's Hospital in Tennessee. And that's something that is always near and dear to my heart, helping sick kids. So definitely recommend checking out the Hackers Paradise, whether you have a question about equipment, gear, product reviews, want to discuss problems in your game, swing tips, anything like that. They are going to be exceptionally helpful, whether they are just the ordinary golfers or administrators such as JB, golfer gal, and the like. So Hackers Paradise Forum, fantastic. So they are sponsoring the data experience. So initially 2 of us, now there are 4 of us participating, received a complimentary Shotscope watch to review. And I was unbiased. I said, look, I have high standards coming from Arcos. Yes, I'm going to miss the slope feature, especially in Hawaii on those hilly courses. There were shots where it was about, 225 yards, but it's downhill some 50 feet, and I'm hitting an 8-iron. I'd never be hitting an 8-iron back home 225 yards. I'd be lucky if it went 160. So slope does play a factor, but I can tell you this is a quality product. It gives you very good distances. It was accurate to a yard within the CART GPS and the Arcos, and using it in past experiences, it's within a yard, possibly even closer than some of your rangefinders. So great things. So I'm in the process of still recuperating from the Hawaii trip, getting myself ready for that next challenge, which is the data experience. Getting some workouts in, the home gym, doing some golf exercises with my bands, the stability balls, medicine balls, using Joey D's golf fitness plan that I generally follow off and on, probably not as much as I should, but I'm doing that in preparation for the data experience coming up. Also trying to just get as many rounds in. Played week before Easter, was not able to get out last week. Checked on Sunday and Monday, and even on Easter Sunday and Easter Monday, we were not able to book a tee time for this weekend. They were all filled up. So that just gives you an idea of how popular golf is in the post-COVID times and what we're looking at. But 1 month to go before the data experience presented by Shotscope and the Hackers Paradise. I'm going to keep you updated here on the podcast with my progress, with my game, with my golf fitness, and give you a really good idea how things are looking. So that is our recap. Look forward to more content coming up about Scottie Sheffler running his heater, taking it right from Texas to the Masters and doing so well and looking so good wearing that green jacket. Coming up this week, we have a match play event. We have the Zurich Classic of New Orleans, and I hear that Scottie is going to be paired up with past champion Ryan Palmer. So really excited to see how that partnership works out for them this weekend with 2 days of alternate shot and, of course, 2 days of best ball. So chance to go low. Really interesting to see if he's able to carry that momentum going forward. I hear he might not be the betting favorite this week, and people are generally concerned about that because it is a match play. It's a different format. So all I'll tell you is never underestimate anybody in this tournament. We know Louis has done well at this tournament. We know the Australian guys have done well in this tournament. So we'll see what happens. But looking forward to that. Looking forward to more golf, the PGA, and of course, in my backyard here in Massachusetts, the U.S. Open in Brookline. And I'll end with my rant of the day. The USGA has done a terrible job with ticketing for the U.S. Open. In general, just no advance notice of when tickets are going on sale. They gave the Victory Club folks a holiday offer to go and buy tickets in a short window in December. By the time most people logged on, all the tickets were gone that were for that allotment. They had more later available. We saw a news article last week that last Thursday they were going to have another batch, their final batch of daily grounds tickets, general admission tickets would be released. There was no word on the time. There was literally nothing on the USGA website. And I knew it was going to be on last Thursday. I looked on Twitter, found that it was going to be at 10 a.m. My wife texted me at like 9:45 to say, go on the website. I'm in queue. I'm in the line already. I went on and I found that they had changed from just having all their little listing of the ticket categories sold out to open, and you could then click and get into the queue. No word of when that opened. Was it 9:30? Was it 9? Was it 8? Midnight? Who knows? But they never advertised that. I got in queue. I got in right at 10 o'clock, and by 10:02, everything was sold out. Didn't even have a chance to add anything to my cart. It was that fast. It was probably 2 minutes that the whole allotment that they had left sold out. It is exceptionally disappointing. It was almost like, I realize it is the country club It's one of the founding members of the USGA. Really a historic venue. Francis we met and all of the history, defeating Varden and Ted Ray there back in 1913. Well, I can tell you the USGA seemed like a very exclusive country club trying to deal with their ticketing process. And from someone who's a teacher who doesn't want to pay $800 on StubHub for a US Open ticket, it was very frustrating. You sign up for emails, and it wasn't until the day before that the email even notified me that the next day I was going to be able to buy tickets. It didn't even say what time. If it wasn't for the Twitter announcement, I wouldn't have known the time. And even then, opening the queue, whatever time they did, very deceptive. They never told us when the queue would open. You could assume 10 a.m. tickets go on sale, log in at 10 o'clock, and you would have been out of luck. And unfortunately, that's how it went down. With all the surveys by My Golf Spy and other places showing Arcos, showing that the average driving distance for amateurs is not going up exponentially, perhaps that the pro game is, and is to hear the talk, without talk of bifurcation, all the talk of rolling back equipment and balls. We don't want to have, at least I don't, more tournaments where players are slogging to 5 over par. Where it's very difficult. We're seeing players humiliated. We're seeing players out of the rough and all of that. So not happy with the USGA. I can tell you, next time USGA, you want to send me one of your pamphlets trying to get me to buy a membership when members of the Victory Club couldn't even get on to buy tickets. I'll tell you where you can put that envelope. Anyway, that is my rant of the day. Looking forward to the data experience presented by Shotscope and the Hackers Paradise coming up next month, May 7th through the 9th from the beautiful oceanfront Hammock Beach Golf Resort. And I am looking forward to the PGA Championship in May and, of course, the US Open in Brookline, which I'm still holding out hope that I will be able to attend. And shame on you, USGA, for not allowing freelance media, podcasters, bloggers like myself, Cruskater Golf, from applying for a media pass. I think I probably could have gotten into the Masters easier than I could have gotten into the US Open. So that is all for this Cruskater Golf podcast. Thank you very much for listening. I am Brian, your Cruskater Golf podcast.